The film begins with a character named Marshal Jim Dillon. He is the police chief in Horse Cave, a small and quiet town. This town is extremely small, with fewer than 1,000 residents. Marshal Jim's major responsibility is to keep everything tranquil and nice, and he has a reliable sidekick, Deputy Matt Reynolds, who assists him. One day, things go a little crazy. Two members of a motorcycle gang arrive in town. Deputy Matt notices them as they drive past the police station. He's curious, so he asks Jim why these tough-looking bikers are here. It's unusual because motorcycle gangs are rarely seen in this town, especially thus early in the morning. But Jim tells Matt not to panic. He believes the bikers simply took the wrong path and wound up in their town by mistake. It turns out Matt is not the only one who is astonished. When these bikers walk into a cafe, everyone stares at them with distrust. People are curious about what these men are preparing. One of the motorcyclists, Shovelhead, starts a commotion as soon as they enter the cafe. He starts insisting on acquiring booze from the cafe's owner, Kathy. However, Kathy insists that they do not provide alcohol in the morning. Shovelhead is not thrilled with her response and continues to demand a beer. Kathy's had enough and hits him with the bottle. Shovelhead, as you might expect, does not like that. He gets really wound up and dares Kathy to a fight. Then there's Jarhead, his friend, who is simply standing back and watching everything unfold. Luckily for everyone, Marshal Jim arrives at the diner just in time. He comes in and breaks up the fight, thrashing Shovelhead and taking him to the police station. But he only arrests Shovelhead. Jarhead goes free. Jim and his cop colleagues begin to worry that the biker gang has sinister intentions for their town. Jim suspects that something shady is going on. He instructs his pal Deputy Matt to transport Shovelhead, one of the biker gang members, to the larger police station in the nearby city. Jim decides to stay and keep an eye on the town in case anything happens. It turns out Jim's suspicions were correct. The remainder of the biker gang arrives in town after Matt leaves with Shovelhead. Shovelhead was used as bait to distract the guards in a sneaky operation. With fewer people monitoring, the gang could disrupt the electric substation, causing the entire city to lose electricity. Jim is currently hanging out at Kathy's cafe flirting. But as the lights go out, he smells something fishy. He returns to the police station to investigate what's going on. Meanwhile, Matt is still driving down the road toward the next town when he notices a man lying on the side of the road. Matt doesn't suspect anything and rushes out to assist the man, believing he's injured. But this is a trap. The guy is actually a gang member. As soon as Matt gets close enough, the man leaps up and points a gun at him. Matt is now stuck as the gang's hostage. And that's not the only hard trap the gang has put up. On the other side of the road, a cop on patrol notices a van speeding like crazy. The cop pursues the van, urging the driver to get out. But surprise, some of the group sneaks up behind the cop and shoots him dead. Then one of them, a man nicknamed Dirty Bob, puts on the deceased cop's clothes and drives away in his patrol car. While all of this was happening, Jim returned to his office and attempted to contact another police station for assistance. However, those clever gang members interfered with the phone signal, so he was unable to reach other police stations in distant cities. This meant that the town of Horse Cave was cut off from the outside world. Just then, Jim heard motorbikes approaching the police station. He ran out to check what was going on and discovered that the gang had arrived in town. When they showed up, Jim became very curious about what they were up to. He was so deep in contemplation that he didn't detect Jarhead creeping up behind him and pointing a gun at him. It turns out the gang's objective was to loot a bank in the same town. Diablo, the gang leader, grew up in the community and knew all about it. He even knew Jim very well and could predict what the police chief could and could not do. This made it much easier for him to plan the bank robbery. He was so cunning that he employed one of his gang members as a bank teller. Once the gang had all of the bank employees out in the open, Diablo instructed the manager to assist his team in breaking open the safe. She led them straight to the safe, opened it, and let them grab all the cash inside. After the bank job was successful, Diablo dispatched a group of his men to transport the bank personnel and locals to a church, where they would be imprisoned. But guess who didn't have to leave? Jim and the new deputy met. Diablo wanted them to stick around. Diablo had something he wanted to discuss with Jim and Matt. Diablo and his crew were more than just interested in robbing the bank. They were aware that something significant was about to occur. A casino was going to deposit millions of dollars into that bank, and Diablo wanted it too. So they waited for the armored truck to arrive with all that cash. The two guards in the truck were unaware that the bank was being targeted by criminals. Diablo ensured that no one in the city could communicate with the outside world. As they wait for the pickup, bullets rang out. Someone is firing a weapon at them. It's a local elderly man who is a real crack shot. He's hiding away and taking out the gang members one at a time. The rest of the group is forced to hide as well, and Jim and Matt take advantage of the commotion to flee. This is where things become pretty intense. Jim and Matt do not notice a woman close. She's terrified and attempts to flee, but Diablo captures her and holds her captive. He threatens to harm her if the old man does not show himself. It turns out the old man can't allow anything happen to that woman because she's his wife, so he steps out and asks Diablo to release her. But Diablo doesn't care and shoots the elderly man right there. Diablo believes he can use the woman to manipulate Jim and Matt. He threatens them with her, claiming he will injure her if they do not give up. So Matt panics and tries to stall by setting off an alarm in the store where they're hiding. However, this irritates Diablo greatly. He decides to shoot the woman, leaving everyone stunned. Jim recognizes they can't simply approach the bad men face to face, so he devises a covert plan inside the business, and he and Matt slip out the back while some of the gang members approach the store. Jim cleverly built a device to detonate when the store door opened. After that, Jim and Matt decided to part ways. They reasoned it would be easier to keep an eye on the gang this way. Diablo and his friends did not chase them right away since they were waiting for the armored truck. They hung out in the bank, hoping to surprise the truck guards when they arrived. When the truck arrived, the driver had a strange sense due to the town's eerie calm. He sent his companion into the bank to check things out while he remained with the truck. He had no idea the group was already inside, waiting. They grabbed the guard and returned him to the truck. They urged the driver to unlock the back, but he refused, so Diablo shot the guard. They then detonated the back of the truck with explosives. Once they collected the money, they hurried to the church, where they were holding everyone hostage. Diablo had a plan for getting Jim and Matt's attention. He brought Kathy out of the church and planned to use her as bait. Around this time, Matt was near the church, equipped with a long-barrel rifle. He intended to take down Diablo and his crew by pulling the trigger from a distance. But wait, Jim stopped Matt from doing it. Matt wasn't very good at long-range shooting, and Jim knew it. He was concerned that the bullet would strike Kathy, who was just there beside Diablo. So Jim was going to handle things while Matt watched. But Matt wasn't going to just sit there. He went against Jim's wishes and surrendered himself to Diablo. He hoped this would persuade Diablo to let Kathy go. But it's a twist. Jim opted to take a shot despite seeing Matt give himself up. He aimed and fired a gang member. This infuriated Diablo. He directed 3 of his pals to grab Kathy and Matt and drag them back into the chapel. Meanwhile, Diablo and his gang were searching for Jim. Jim had set up traps all throughout town, including one hidden in a car, which they were unaware of. That automobile went bomb as soon as one of the gang members opened the door. Inside the church, Kathy revealed the truth to Matt. She informed him about a radio hidden in one of the rooms. With that radio, they could request assistance from other police stations in adjacent towns. Matt decided it was worth a chance, so he crept into the room when the gang was distracted by their guard. Luckily for them, the radio functioned perfectly. Matt requested backup. Kathy remained in the church's front pew while Matt was on the radio. She noticed that one of the gang members was caught off guard, so she seized the opportunity, assaulted the woman, and snatched her gun. It worked like a charm. After taking down the gang member, she directed all of the prisoners to a safe location. On the other side of town, Jim got involved in a shootout with Diablo and one of his gang members. They exchanged gunfire for a time before Jim took out the henchman. However, Diablo was able to flee to his automobile. He met up with the rest of his group and talked about the approaching police from a nearby town. They realized they had to split the stolen cash before the cops arrived. So Diablo gave up hunting Jim. All he cared about was getting away before the cops arrived. However, just as Diablo was about to go, Jim arrived and killed Diablo's gang members. Unfortunately, Jim ran out of bullets just as he was ready to defeat Diablo himself. Diablo grabbed the opportunity and fled with the money. But wait, the narrative isn't over yet. Kathy came to the scene with a horse and a rifle. She gave them over to Jim so that he may pursue Diablo. There's no time to waste. Jim climbed on the horse and pursued Diablo, who was rushing away on a stolen motorcycle. The hunt did not last long. Jim managed to shoot Diablo's bike, causing it to smash onto the road. At that moment, Diablo was somewhat trapped. He couldn't run anymore because his leg was hurt. Jim, on the other hand, did not intend to show mercy. Diablo had caused a great deal of misery and suffering, and he deserved to pay. So Jim aimed and fired Diablo, taking his life. And that concludes the film. Horse Cave seems to regain its peace. Jim returned to becoming a cop, but he now had a girlfriend named Kathy, and that's how the film ends. So the lesson of the story is, never underestimate the power of a small-town sheriff and his trusted sidekick. They might just outsmart biker gangs, save the day, and fall in love along the way.